Hello guys, and welcome to today's video. Slow but surely we are inching very close to my second anniversary in Canada, and in today's video what I would like to do is reflect on this 2-year journey, some of the mistakes that I made myself and some mistakes that I've seen other people make. And one thing that I would do for you in this video, besides just sharing some of these mistakes, is also give you ideas of how you can avoid them. The aim and goal of this channel is to at least learn together and grow together, and I'm hoping that by learning from these mistakes your transition to Canada will be as smooth as possible. So now let's dive in. The first mistake that I have seen people make, and most times this ends up impacting their whole journey right after they've landed here, is underestimating the cost of living here. And this mainly has to do with most people who are moving to the bigger cities like Toronto, Vancouver, those major cities where cost of living tends to be very high. Most guys land there only to realize that they have not actually planned for the cost of living, and possibly what they read or they heard from other people is actually not the reality on the ground. There is more to it than what they are just reading. For most people going into much smaller cities where the cost of living tends to be on the lower side, even if they make this mistake, you realize that the strain on them tends to be lower because, one, they might have enough on them to maybe cover them, or one way or the other they are able to sustain themselves until they come out of the hole. Underestimating the cost of living can lead to severe financial strain, affecting your ability to pay for things like rent, groceries, and even transportation. Underestimating the cost of living can lead to debt accumulation and even stress, potentially even impacting your overall well-being. To avoid this mistake, one advice that I will always give to newcomers is to make sure you do a thorough research of the city that you are going to, or even the province that you are landing in. Use websites like Numbero and even local forums like WhatsApp groups to get a realistic view of what the actual cost of living is. It will always be good to reach out to somebody, possibly somebody in your similar situation who is already in the city, that you can speak to and get a realistic view of what it is on the ground before you even land in that particular city. And one rule of thumb that I live by, that I always advise people to go by, is the 30% rule. That is, don't spend more than 30% of your income on housing. By doing this, you will be able to at least keep your expenses on the low. And when it comes to budgeting and keeping your expenses on the low, it might be advisable for you to consider a shared accommodation just to help keep your expenses on the low. Sometimes you might be lucky to have access to a student housing where you might be sharing accommodation with other people and you might be paying less. If that's not something for you, you can consider the option of maybe renting outside the central city where rent tends to be a little cheaper. Mistake number 2 that I've seen a lot of people commit is not building credit history early. In a country like Canada, having a very good credit history can go a long way to help when it comes to things like securing rent, getting a phone plan, and sometimes even securing a job, because most of these people would like to check your credit history to see whether you are credit worthy. And as a newcomer who just landed, you virtually don't have any credit. And the good thing is, because you don't have credit, most credit institutions are very ready to offer you credit. A poor or non-existent credit history can limit your financial options. And as a newcomer who just landed, you want all options to be available to you. So why shut some of them down yourself? So how do you avoid not building credits early? First thing that I would advise is secure a credit card. So even if you came in with physical cash that you can afford to spend, if any of the institutions is offering you a credit card and you do your research, and I'm stressing on this one here, research to make sure that there are no hidden fees, you can just secure that credit card for yourself and use it to pay for your expenses accordingly, and make sure you pay that credit back before your statement is actually due, so that you don't default. Secondly, pay your bills on time. Things like rent, utility, telephone bills, make sure you are paying them on time, because those payments will go one way or the other towards your credit history. That's the only way somebody else who is going to loan you money or give you any money or give you any credits would know that you are credit worthy. You are somebody that they can trust with money, and you actually pay on time. Last but not the least, make sure you are monitoring your credit score. There are a lot of apps and features out there that you can use to monitor your credit score. Some of the banks will even give you the feature on the app where you can check your credit score. Make sure you keep an eye on that credit score, and if there are any errors, make sure you report them and have them corrected, because that's what most institutions are checking before they offer you credit one way or the other. Mistake number 3 that I have seen is ignoring network opportunities. Over the last 2 years, I've seen that a lot of newcomers who come in one way or the other will be trying to shy away from networking opportunities, because in their mind, that's not the reason that I came into this country, forgetting that those are opportunities that are going to help them advance their goal in this country. Through those networking opportunities, you might meet people, like I always say, who might be able to open a window for you to sneak through to achieve that goal that you wanted, or even open a door for you to step into. In a country like Canada, networking is something that is ingrained in the fabric of most people, because they see networking as something that comes natural to them. So for somebody like you as a newcomer who just came in, if your school offers any seminar, any opportunity for you to interact with other people, my advice is always take advantage of that. Most schools, when you land in the country, they will organize networking opportunities for students to interact with instructors. For you, it will be a good time for you to meet those people who are going to teach you. It will be a good time for you to connect with them and ask them all the necessary questions that you want to actually engage them on. So for somebody like you who is now thinking of moving to Canada or just landed, what should you do to avoid this particular mistake? My advice is to make sure you are attending any professional meetups. Make sure you are attending any seminars that your school might be organizing. And also take advantage of social media networks like LinkedIn. Make sure you are connecting with people in the industry that you want to get yourself into. Search for posts that at least are engaging, things that you feel you can relate to, and try to connect with people who are at least in that particular industry. And lastly, join an association. Don't try to be an island whilst you are in Canada. No matter the industry that you are studying in, they will have an association. Try and join most of them. That way, you will be able to attend and connect with people in the industry. So even before you graduate from school, you would have built those networks, and they will know what you are capable of and what you can deliver, which will make it easy for you to transition from school into the industry. Mistake number 4 is overlooking health insurance coverage. Most people land and 2 things happen. 1, either they don't have an insurance coverage, or 2, they don't even know what their insurance actually covers. For most people who are coming in to study, you might be lucky enough that maybe the school that you are attending will already have an insurance built into your tuition fee. So even if you don't pick up a private insurance, you might be covered. But even with that one, it is always important to understand what your insurance covers. So it is always advisable that when you come in, make sure you have an insurance coverage one way or the other. Else, if something happens to you, you are going to pay so much for that. To avoid this mistake, what I will advise is, if you have an insurance now, just go and pick it up and start reading and understand exactly what your insurance covers. Does it cover dental? Does it cover vision? What are some of the exceptions that come with that insurance? Make sure you understand it, and don't wait to fall sick, or don't wait to be in need and find out that you don't actually have coverage and you have to now pay out of pocket. Secondly, after understanding your insurance, it is very important to make sure that maybe you get a supplementary insurance to cover the things that you would think you will need but are not covered in your insurance. And also make sure you are taking advantage of some of the free resources that might be out there in your province. For most provinces, they might be offering low-cost healthcare for students one way or the other. Mistake number 5, not preparing for the winter. Underestimating the severity of the Canada winter is a very big mistake that you cannot afford to make. So for most of you going to prairie provinces like Manitoba, Saskatchewan, those areas tend to be very cold. It is very important that you make necessary preparations. Anybody who has been in any of these places long enough will tell you that in Canada there are 8 months of winter and the other 4 months of sunshine. Your failure to make the necessary preparations for the winter, one, is going to affect your overall well-being, is going to affect your mobility and even your overall comfort, because you will need to dress properly, you will need to make the necessary plans of how you are going to move around, you need to buy the right clothes, and you even need to make the necessary adjustments to your schedule. A winter can even affect your decision on which jobs that you pick, because if you are working outdoors before the winter, you will know that if the winter comes and you have to stay outside, then it's not going to be easy for you. So you need to make the necessary adjustments. To avoid this mistake, what I will advise is make sure when it comes to renting, you are considering renter before you choose a place. I see a lot of people choosing basement because they're like, oh, it's cheap, forgetting that when it gets cold, those basements are going to actually freeze, which will make those 8 months that you are spending in that cold not be fun. Lastly, learn winter safety. You need to learn how to drive in winter. If you'll be driving, you need to learn even how to walk in the snow, and you need to learn what to do when there's a snowstorm. This is something that you are not supposed to take lightly. Some of us have made that mistake and we've paid for it. Mistake number 6 is neglecting to learn about Canada culture. Canada is a melting pot of immigrants. You land here and you realize that different people from different backgrounds have found themselves here. And for you not learning about that culture, you are going to find yourself in a lot of misunderstandings. Personally, when we were in school, we were taught something we call cultural dimension, and they were teaching us how our culture is different from what the Canadian culture is, and you are going to need a lot of tolerance to be able to survive. You will be told that topics like money, sex, religion, politics are things that you are supposed to stay away from when you find yourself in the midst of other people, because different people will have different views about it. So before you understand somebody or build a rapport with somebody, there will be no need to be engaging in those topics, because you might be on with different viewpoints on different sides of the spectrum. To avoid this, one thing that I would advise you to do as a newcomer when you land in is to make sure that take advantage of things like cultural dimension seminars or sensitivity courses that maybe your school or your workplace might be offering, because what they will do is it will help you to get an understanding of other people feel and also how other people think. Mistake number 7, not saving for emergencies. For a place like Canada, if you are not careful, you can easily live hand to mouth, where basically what you'll be doing is you'll be working and using the money to pay for your expenses. So there's no money actually getting saved for you in case there's an emergency. And because most times the things that you would have paid for back home, most of these things are covered, you might fall into that temptation of not actually putting money aside for emergencies, because in your mind there might never be any emergency. But the thing is, unexpected expenses can arise anytime, and not having a financial cushion is going to create a stressful situation for you. So it is always important to save for emergencies. Things like job loss, urgent travel, health issues can happen anytime whilst you are here in Canada. So it is important that as you are working, you make sure that you put some of those monies aside. And having an emergency fund will provide you with a safety net and make sure that you are prepared for any unforeseen circumstances that may arise. So how do you avoid finding yourself in a situation where you don't have an emergency fund? My first point is make sure you set up an emergency fund where you are able to save up between 3 to 6 months of your living expenses. That way you know you are covered in case of any unexpected circumstances. You have enough money to cover your cost of living for between 3 to 6 months. Secondly, because it might be difficult for you to save, make sure you automate your savings. When I say automate your savings, don't create a situation where you need to take the money and go and put it into your savings account. If you have a bank account, it's possible you have a credit and a savings account. You can just set up a savings amount to be transferred from your checking account every month into your savings account. So that will not require your manual intervention, and the money will actually move into your savings account without you having to lift a finger. And with this one, if your excuse is I don't have enough money to save, I will advise that it is time to start cutting down on unexpected expenses. It is time you look at the things that you spend your money on and check the things that are actually unnecessary, cut them out. That way there will be enough money for you to put aside for a rainy day. So there you have it. These are some 7 mistakes that I have seen people commit over the last 2 years that I have found myself in Canada. That I think that by you avoiding those mistakes when you find yourself in Canada or whilst you are in Canada, it will go a long way to at least make your transition much smoother. Moving to a new country comes with its own challenges and hurdles, but with the right preparations and mindset, you will be able to navigate it smoothly. Thank you for watching this video. Feel free to share your mistakes that you have committed since you have been in Canada in the comment section so that other people can also learn from it. If you got value out of this video, kindly hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed and join this family so that we can all learn together. And also don't forget to hit the like button so that YouTube will see that there's value in this video and recommend it to other people. And feel free to share this video with other family members that you think also find value in it so that we can all learn together and grow together.